It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and New York, New York, a city so nice they named it twice. And this is CarEdge Live for Friday, June 30th, with your hosts, me, Ray, here in frigid Ventnor City, and Zach hanging out at a WeWork in New York City, and I'm guessing it's equally as cold there. How are you today, handsome?
It was 9 degrees this morning when I walked to the diner to get breakfast, and holy cow, it was difficult to breathe, actually, because it was so cold when the wind was hitting my face. So definitely cold out there, Dad.
Yes.
Good thing, though, because things are heating up back at CarEdge.com. Maybe cold outside, but we got a hot deal for another 20 hours. We're offering some savings on our car buying service in CarEdge Pro. As a friendly reminder, back at CarEdge.com, we provide a car buying service that takes care of the research, dealer outreach, and even negotiation on your behalf. Back at CarEdge.com, we learn what matters to you, contact dealers, compare real offers, and help you get the best deal without the stress. Check it out, CarEdge.com. Now today...
Can I make a suggestion to that? Instead of being concerned with, what's important to the customer, why don't we act like a car dealership and tell them what's important to them? And, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
What were you referring to?
You're our commercial, where we want to know what's important to them. We learn what matters to you. Well, I think we should be just like car dealers, and we should tell customers what matters to them. That's how car dealers do it. You don't get the joke. It's okay.
It. Yeah, no.
Okay,
not a problem. More time on it, though. Maybe I'll get it. Do you want to try one more time?
No, I do not. No.
Maybe after the show, you can explain that one to me. Here's the deal, folks. Really interesting article came out this morning that helps put into reference why 2026 will be the year the car market finally actually resets. Now, this article comes from thedailyeconomy.org, and it's a really interesting piece written by this man, Jeffrey. Now, essentially, what Jeffrey did is he asked the question, how many work hours does a car cost today from the Model T all the way to today's world? And what is fascinating here,
yes,
is we can now demonstrate just how out of sync car prices are with the average American's ability to actually afford things. Question for you to kick things off. The Model T. Yes. Why was that such a big project over at Ford, Dad? You and I actually, if I'm not mistaken, were 2-3 years ago in Detroit at the Rouge factory, Ford Rouge factory. What was the Model T all about? Give us a brief history lesson on the Model T.
It was about affordable transportation for the masses. Okay, it was all about being able to build a car that just about any working person could afford. Henry Ford wanted the workers that were building the cars to actually be able to afford to buy one of those cars. That is not the case today.
So some of the assessment and analysis done here, Dad, were around how many work hours it would actually take to purchase one of those vehicles. So you can see here, approximately in this is adjusted for time.
Yes.
During the age of the Model T, it was approximately 650 hours of labor were traded to purchase a Model T. That is how many hours of work the average person had to do to get their hands on that affordable mass market vehicle.
Yes.
That might seem like a large number to some of you. It might seem like a small number to some of you. Let that be our baseline for the rest of our conversation here. 650 hours of work to get your hands on the common man's car.
Yes.
Any guesses, Dad, where we are today? And the analysis here was really well done, focused on Ford. And the first analysis that the author actually did was around the Maverick, which is their more affordable kind of Model T for the common age. Do you have any guesses how many work hours or labor hours it takes today, everything inflation adjusted and whatnot, to get your hands on a Ford Maverick?
2,500.
2,500 is the guess there. I promise you we're going to get close to that number. For the Maverick, fortunately, Dad, you're going to find some fun in this. The Maverick's MSRP is $29,840. The reason I said you're going to have some fun with this is because you and I both know good luck finding one for $29,840.
Yes.
Now, that being said, if you were to find your hands, find one of those, you're at 940 hours to purchase. Now,
okay.
most Americans end up financing that vehicle. And so when financing, you're actually at $39,000 because you're paying down the interest on that vehicle. So on that $29,840 MSRP vehicle that you financed,
Yes.
you're actually trading 1,235 labor hours of work. So again, just to put perspective here, it costs double the amount of work to buy a Ford Maverick that doesn't even exist. We'll do an example here. Like, good luck finding a sub $30,000 Ford Maverick. And if you're going to be like most people, you're going to finance it. It's going to end up costing you double what it costs to get your Model T equivalent back in the day. That to me was immediately eye-opening because it's already fudging the numbers. It's already using a Ford Maverick that, again, is a unicorn, doesn't actually exist.
So wouldn't it be interesting then?
Mm-hmm.
If we know, for instance, that the average new car transaction prices today are around $50,000,
Yep.
wouldn't it be interesting to know what that average car costs? And wait, and then knowing full well that the average transaction price for a Ford F-150 is somewhere between $65,000 and $70,000. Wouldn't that be an interesting stat to know?
You and the author think similarly. Setting aside the simpler utilitarian Maverick, it's been widely reported that the average price of a new vehicle in the U.S. is about $50,000. That equates to 1,581 labor hours, almost triple the amount of work to be done to get your hands on the average new car. Now,
Yes.
if you finance, so imagine you put $10,000 down and you're at 7% interest rate for 60 months, the total cost is $64,500. We're up to over 2,000 labor hours. And I think, Dad, the author here is being generous, saying you're putting $10,000 down and you're financing for 60 months.
Yes.
In many cases, people are putting no dollars down and financing for 72 months. That's the other part of today's car market reset.
Well,
you have longer loan terms.
Yeah, here's the reality. The average loan term today is like 70.5 months. So we're already 10 and a half months off on his calculations. And that loan term is only going to get longer and longer as we continue to proceed down this path of overpriced vehicles.
So this is what's so fascinating about it, is we are really realistically in an era where if you compare the Model T when it first came out to today, it's going to cost you 3 times to 4 times to maybe 5 times as much labor hours, work that you have to do, earnings that you have to bring in to get yourself a vehicle. Because again, the examples that we're using here are fairly, I don't know, innocuous. Like, they are not common, okay? You are not going to find yourself, let's do a real example here. So it's the Super Crew XL is a $29,840 MSRP Ford Maverick. All right, let's try and find one really quickly. So we're searching nationwide for Ford.
Yeah.
Maverick.
Yeah.
Trim was, drum roll, please.
XL or something, was
it? I mean, I have XLT, but I don't even have the let's see here. And now let's sort by MSRP lowest. Okay, 25,140. The dealer's asking 34,000. And look at these other options that are still showing up, 24s, 23s. Let's click on this one. Let's actually look at this. This is fascinating here. So if you actually are in the market, I'm going to go all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. I want to go to the dealer website. I mean, look at this, Dad. Look at this. Look at this. The author of this publication, again, to demonstrate the best case scenario, is saying that you can find a Ford Maverick for $29,840, which is essentially the closest thing we have to the Model T from Ford in today's world. And it's going to cost you significantly more work hours, 940 compared to 650. Then when we do the actual car search to find a Ford Maverick at that price point, the lowest trim level option, which again, we did back on CarEdge.com. We found a 2026 for $25,140. Look at today's world. The dealer's actually advertising it with a $10,000 dealer markup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, man. The reset has to happen. Has to happen. Because this is the type of stuff that makes it unsustainable and unbearable for consumers to actually purchase, which will
Yes.
materialize itself in the January sales numbers, which I am anticipating will be terrible for the auto industry. This is crazy.
I would think January sales numbers are going to be down, and I think they're going to be down for two reasons. One, affordability is still an issue, and B, we've had some rather severe weather that will certainly impact the close of the month, and so I don't think we're going to see nearly the number of sales that was anticipated at the beginning of the month. But having said that, I can't if I had a dollar for every time over the last 5 or 6 years that we have said pricing as we know it today is unsustainable, I would be probably a millionaire today. And every year I continue to be proven wrong. So, what we think, looking at the statistics, would indicate that it's unsustainable. It is actually inconceivable to me that it's sustainable because it has been and continues to be. And until the manufacturer's actions match their words in regards to affordability, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, but until that happens, they believe that this is extremely sustainable, just selling to the 12 to 15% of the population out there that can afford that $70,000 pickup truck or that $100,000 SUV, or that $1,500 a month car payment.
But Dad, I think what's so fascinating about this analysis that we reviewed is that even on the best case scenario, most affordable option, it's still magnitudes more expensive today to buy a car than it was. When did the Model T come out? 1914?
In the early 1900s, I guess.
Yeah, 1907 something. I mean, like, so in a century, we have made it less accessible to get your hands on an automobile. Like, that is unequivocally true. And then when you really start to dig into it, it's not even that the most accessible options are accessible because of things like this. Additional dealer markup. Again, we did not prepare for this. Y'all watch the show enough to know that we don't prepare for anything. This was the first example that shows up. You sort back on CarEdge.com for the lowest MSRP Ford Maverick for sale, XLT, in the United States. And the first one has a $10,000 additional dealer markup. The next two are prior model years that haven't sold. They're all prior model years that haven't sold. Look at all these ones sitting around that dealers are using as demo cars with 6,100 miles on them. I mean, this is at its core what makes this so damning for the industry, which is why I think the reset has to happen. Yeah. Because if January sales numbers come in like the way that we're anticipating them, and yes, you are right, some of that has to do with the weather. A lot of that also has to do with the fact that cars are not affordable and people are refusing to purchase them. And you can only extend credit terms so far for so long. Eventually, the music cuts out. And it seems like we're getting ever so much closer to the music finally cutting out a little bit, the lights coming on, and the industry waking up and saying, okay, we actually do need more affordable options, which again, you and I have talked about for a while now. As the 2025 and older inventory does age out, get sold out, the manufacturers aspire to replace it with more affordable vehicles. But will they actually do that? Time will tell.
I would, if Henry Ford were alive today, it would be interesting what the conversations around the boardroom table would be at Ford Motor Company as far as what has happened to his vision of being able to produce vehicles that the common person could afford to buy. I would think that if he were alive today and he were looking at the stats that we just looked at, he would be beside himself. He would be screaming at those who are running his company today, because we are so far away from what he had envisioned. We are so far away from, say, what VW had envisioned with the Beetle when they first came out with it, where they wanted to make inexpensive people movers. We are so far removed from that concept to where the chasm between those who can participate and those who would like to participate has never been wider. And my fear is that it's only going to widen further. It will be at some point in the future, probably during your lifetime, where only the elites will have automobiles, will own automobiles. The rest of us will use robo taxis, ride share, whatever it is, but we won't own it. Okay, we'll rent it for the time that we're traveling in it, but we won't own it because it'll only be for the rich and the ultra rich. And as we know, the vast, vast, vast majority of society is not rich or ultra rich. It's a very, very small percentage who are. And we either manufacturers will change course which I don't see happening, or we will just learn to accept it as our fate in life.
So that's where this article, I think, became even more interesting, is the author went ahead and did the cheapest new car for sale in the United States of America right now, which is the Kia K4.
Yes.
Now, the Kia K4 would still chew up 740 labor hours at a $23,535 sticker price. So the cheapest car in America comes from Kia, and it's still significantly more expensive than the comparable Model T was way back when. And forgive me here, but we're going to do it again live. Let's clear all these filters. And let's look now, Kia
K4.
Because Dad, if I'm not mistaken, Kia is another brand who over time has gone up market.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll sort by MSRP lowest here. And so, yes, I mean, look at that. You have some $20,000 options. I'm curious. This one's got miles on it, obviously, but I'm curious how many of these are out there relative to the more expensive ones. And you know what? Let's put that to the test as well here. So we'll just back to default. Forgive me, I don't know the Kia trim levels by heart, but I'm thinking.
I would think the LX is the least.
Is the lowest. Yeah, so let's see. There's 864 nationwide Kia K4 LXs. Let's see, was that the cheapest one? Yes. Now, let's deselect the LX, and let's look at where they have the most, which it looks like, is the LXS and then the GT line. Let's see, how expensive are they? There's the GT line, which is a little bit more expensive. Actually, not too bad.
$5,000.
$5,000 more.
$4,000 to $5,000 more expensive.
And then let me grab. Let me scroll. There we go. LXS. Look, Dad, the LXX actually isn't that much more expensive.
No,
not that much more expensive. So you know what? This is good. This proves a little bit of Kia actually does have a lot of cheap options still out there. That's good. I was anticipating kind of seeing the opposite. It is interesting. I'm going to do one more thing and then I'll move on from this. Let's get rid of trims and let's now just go back here. There are 19,451 Kia K4s for sale nationwide right now. Let's see, how does that compare to 37,000 Sportages, 17,000 Tellurides? Okay, so they don't make that many K4s relative to some of the other models. That's what's interesting to see.
Well, why? Because there's no money in it for them. Okay, because it's a $23,000, $24,000 vehicle that is certainly a low profit margin vehicle for dealers. If you were to go back to that list, we would have invoice pricing if we were to click on some of these, and we would see how little margin there is built into the.
Also, if I may, this is another example. One of the cheapest MSRP Kia K4s has a $27,000, $265 MSRP, $26,175 invoice price. Again, the dealer's charging some markup here because they're advertising it for $29,155. This is one of the most damning aspects of doing this live experiment on the heels of doing this analysis or reviewing this analysis about how much work it takes to buy vehicles. When the cheapest options, we've now found two of them in this, 15-minute live show. We found two of them that are the cheapest options in the United States that then have dealer markups.
Yes, and that. And why is that? Because I don't know. There was $1,000 markup built into the vehicle, and so the dealer doesn't think that's enough markup to sell a car. I would imagine, obviously, the margin for Kia is a lot smaller in that than, say, a Telluride.
Yeah, let's take a quick peek. So let's go back. So this was the K4. Let's go back to just Kia really quickly. Oops, let me zoom out. And then, yeah, let's look at Telluride. Let's go back to whatever. We can just do within Arizona. $52,000, $53,000, $52,000. And then let's click on one of these and look at, yeah, there's much more margin built into the vehicle. $53,525 to $51,384.
Yes. So, you've got 20 some $100 as opposed to $1,000. And the same thing has to translate into the profit margin for Kia itself once they wholesale those vehicles to their dealers. And that's why I believe that we're not really going to see as much effort from these manufacturers to reintroduce more affordable vehicles. I just think it's going to be talk. That's just me.
I want to come back to how the author concluded this piece, which, again, for those of you that are just joining today's show, I found this incredible article in the Daily Economy. Gentleman named Jeffrey L. Degner. I'll send him this video afterwards. Thank you, Jeffrey, for doing this work. The way that he ends this piece that I think is really, really, really interesting. Where was it? Credit expansion. He talks about how Henry Ford was, here it is. The installment, all right, here it goes. So the cost of financing is another reasonable objection to this comparison. The average annual budget burden isn't so bad, even though the total paid is higher. Installment and credit purchase plans, which Henry Ford personally regarded as morally repugnant, were already available in the 1920s. In fact, the company resisted but lost significant market share during the Roaring 20s when competitors like GM deployed credit purchasing. As a result, in 1918, roughly half of car purchases on the U.S. roads were Fords, but by 1930, 75% of U.S.-owned vehicles were purchased on credit. See, this was another interesting aspect of this when you were talking about what would Henry Ford say. Well, Henry Ford was against the idea of taking out debt to finance the purchase of these vehicles. And obviously, his business lost market share way back when, even when vehicles were more affordable. Everything has geared more towards credit to the point where you can go finance that burrito, which is a huge concern for all of us, but that's the new reality.
The reality is that we as a society, at least here in the United States, and I think in most European countries, survive on credit. The worldwide economy seems to be based on you acquire things you can't afford because we're going to lend you the money to make it seem like you can afford it, so that you will have what we hope you will consider to be an affordable payment. It is not that you will acquire things that you can afford because, well, you could actually pay for them. We don't want you to pay for them. Banks don't want you to pay for them. How many billions upon billions upon billions of dollars do banks make off of lending you money, whether it be 29.99% interest on credit cards, or whether it be the interest on automobile loans? The whole worldwide economy is based on convincing people to have the things that they want that they can't afford to buy, but we're going to make it seem like you can afford to buy it because we've come up with a financing plan that, my God, you could afford $1 a day, couldn't you? What if you did with one less Coca-Cola this month? It is so everything. The world's economy would come to a halt if people only bought what they could actually pay for. Okay, the world would collapse in on itself if that were the case again. And so I think that it'll just be talk about really affordability, and that we as a society will come to terms with the fact that that automobile loans, which used to be 12 months or 24 months, will now be 120 months. They'll be 10-year notes. It's just because that's the way of the world. How come Jim can have that and I can't? Well, you can have what Jim has. It's just going to cost you $39.95 a month. You can afford that, can't you? And that's it. That's society as we live in it today.
All right, Dad, you want to go? We haven't done this in a long, long time, but I've got a good one queued up for today. A really, you've got to be kidding me?
We haven't done one of those in feels like decades.
All right, well, here we go, folks. A really, you've got to be kidding me. Baltimore mayor's $163,000 SUV tops the costs of all Maryland executive vehicles records show. Now, here's the guess. I don't want you to see the actual vehicle. What vehicle do you think Baltimore's mayor paid $163,000 for? It's a luxury SUV. What do you think?
A Range Rover.
A Range Rover. That's
because
those
are pretty mean streets in Baltimore. I've driven them, and the only way you're going to get through Baltimore is in that Range Rover.
So I don't think a Baltimore mayor would be very mayoral riding around in a Range Rover. It just feels a little too European to me. We've got some guesses here: a Maybach, a Hummer, a Porsche, a Suburban. Dad, I'm going to give you one more guess here. Think a little more American, man. A little more, rough and tough and American. Escalade V, that'd be a good one. And Dad, I want to inform you, the reason this is the really you got to be kidding me is not because they're the most expensive vehicle in the mayor's office. It's actually because of how stupid a vehicle I think the mayor chose to spend $163,000 on. So use that to inform your thinking.
I honestly, I don't have a Hummer?
Okay, we're getting closer. You ready to laugh?
Yeah.
A 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
How did you even get one to $163,000? Oh my God! Oh my God! That is so sad. That's not even a real vehicle. I mean, it's certainly not $163,000 vehicle, and I'm not sure that Jeep Grand Wagoneer will be able to make it through the mean streets of Baltimore without breaking down. And trust me, there's neighborhoods in Baltimore where you don't want to break down, and that Wagoneer is not going to save your ass when you do. That's absolute insanity. I mean, how do they get it to that price?
I mean, that thing's got to be optioned out, baby. $163,495 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. When I saw this, I thought for sure I had to share it with you because, again, just spending that much money as a government official on your SUV is nuts. Like, we're in an affordability crisis. We're talking about all that. Okay, set that aside.
You're going to spend that kind of money. Get a G-Wagon for
G-Wagon, yes.
At least it'll make it through the mean streets.
You're waking up and you're rationalizing to your staff and to your taxpayers, we're going to spend $163,000 on a car for me. I'm that important. And then you choose a 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer? Get out of here. Come on.
Yeah, that is well, like I always like to say, nothing succeeds quite like failure. And obviously this mayor, bless his or her heart, thought, well, what the hell? I might only get one term. I might as well ride around in an expensive car.
You know what? I'm actually curious now. Let's go over, let me pull it up on the screen. I'm curious what the highest MSRP.
I've never seen one priced that high. It was in the 120s was the highest I'd ever seen them.
Yeah, I cannot believe they can get optioned up that expensive.
Yeah, I mean, what did they do to it? Put in a special mayoral package?
Yeah. Honestly, maybe they paid markups or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
120s. Like, I don't even know.
Get it into the 160s.
Maybe a Grand Wagoneer L? No. Like, how did they even get it that expensive?
You can't, unless you're customizing it.
Also, look at this, by the way. Look at this. This is a 2024 that still hasn't sold. $121,000 MSRP.
You know what that whole thing says to me? that mayor, whoever he or she may be, should have utilized CarEdge, and we could have saved the city of Baltimore a few bucks. Okay?
You know what it actually makes me say, and this is entirely in my opinion, does not represent or warrant anything from CarEdge, makes me wonder what salesperson and store that mayor bought that Jeep Grand Wagoneer from, and I wonder if they're friends. Because there's no rational way to spend $163,000 on a Jeep Grand Wagoneer, but someone got a hell of a payday on the other side of that. And I'm just wondering. And again, that's my opinion. That's my, this is all fabrication, a story in my head. Doesn't represent anything about CarEdge. But that's the question that just went through my mind.
It just baffles the mind to think that any elected official would, and we know what goes on both locally and federally and statewide, that they think so highly of themselves that they should just misspend their constituents' money because, well, hey, I'm the mayor of a pretty miserable city in America, and
Baltimore's great. Baltimore's bounced back.
Yeah, you can believe that as much as you want. Yeah, Baltimore's bounced back. Downtown Baltimore's dying quicker than anything in America. Businesses are leaving Baltimore. So I hate to break it to you.
That's fair.
So you have a city that's on the brink, and the best way to help it is, well, we're going to overspend for a mayor so that it can have this really nice American-made vehicle to drive around in, if and when it drives. This is absolute lunacy. This is the type of stuff that every politician should be held accountable for, because it's our money. I'll never forget when we had a homeowners association meeting at the condo here. And somebody asked about what our defense about having pets in the building is costing us. And the president of the board said, well, I don't know exactly. And my response was, I think you're supposed to know exactly, because you're spending our money. Okay, so that when a homeowner asks how much, you don't just guess. You say, I don't know exactly. Let me find out and get back to you. But you should come to the meetings more often. Politicians need to be held accountable. The questions need to be asked. And then there's that follow-up question that always needs to be asked, which is why?
For sure. But the point of today's show, not necessarily to call out politicians, to point out that paying $163,000 for a Jeep Grand Wagoneer is really, you've got to be kidding me, gold. Today's show, though, folks, was brought to you by CarEdge.com. We're about to head into a fun weekend. Hope everyone stays warm. If you have never been to our website, please check it out, CarEdge.com. A couple ways we can help you. You can use the car search like we demonstrated today. We have the Research Center, our car buying service, CarEdge Pro. We can help you with a warranty as well. We've got a promotion going on there, and save some money on auto insurance. Learn more about why my dad and I started this company down on the page. Please read our origin story, and a huge thanks to everyone who tunes in every single Monday through Friday to spend some time with us. We really appreciate it. Nothing we've accomplished, me and my dad have accomplished, is possible without you who choose to be here. So thank you. And Dad, we'll be back in February. We'll be back on Monday with another episode of CarEdge Live. Starting February 2026, I'm sure we'll have something good to talk about.
I can't wait. And the good news is it's supposed to be extremely cold for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Gotta love it. When am I moving to Vegas, baby? It's supposed to be 72 degrees in Vegas today. Why is my ass here in Ventnor where it's supposed to go up to 20?
These are decisions you have made that have set you up with where you are. Folks, we're back on Monday. We're gonna do some deep thinking, me and my dad, and figure out why we are where we are. How's that sound?
Yes, I like that.
All right, we'll see y'all back here Monday.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.